we are the panelists, so to speak. So I guess we'll get started now, as we've got quite a few people in the room. So hi guys, thank you all for joining us for this online webinar. It was pieced together quite quickly, based on a reaction to sort of what was happening. We host a lot of roundtables anyway, and it's all about discussing challenges around agency growth. We're a business development consultancy. But I brought some of these other guys in the room because they've got different expertise that you might have questions or concerns around, and you can ask them. So Susie is a legal business consultant, and got a lot of experience doing that for agencies. Tina, I've known for a long time. She works as a procurement and marketing consultant, so really focusing on brand and agency relationships. Gareth is a new friend, a guy I met up in Yorkshire, and he is a sort of agency transformation coach. So does a bit of what we do, but kind of more holistically. He's more impressive than I am. And Yasser, I've also known for a little while, runs a growth factor, running an accountancy practice. So to focus on tax challenges, services, finance consultancy. Probably not doing him justice, but definitely a busy man, I imagine, at this time. Cool. So I'm going to share my slides with you, and then if you've got questions throughout, you've got a chat panel at the side, or I can sort of unmute you so you can then sort of ask a question to the panel. I'll go through my slides. I mean, obviously you can jump in at any time. But they're kind of conversation starters, things to think about from a business development perspective that, challenges you might be going through at this time. So let me just, hopefully you can see my screen now. So can everybody see that, guys? Yeah. Yeah, cool. So we've got, so obviously, I've called it sort of survival skills. Rehab is the name for our normal events practice because it's basically about stop thinking short term and start thinking long term. And whereas that is always important to do, there are some sort of things that you do need to be focusing on short term as well, and looking at sort of cash flow and where those quick wins might be coming from. So the first thing I sort of wanted to share was this kind of keep calm, carry on type mentality. And I think, we're all going through the same thing at the moment, a lot of concerns, a lot of worries. And I think, like me, I'm sure many of you are anxious about different things. And it's about keeping calm. It's about focusing on what you're doing and not sort of blowing things out of proportion. The world is continuing in a slightly different way. And I think we've got to, for our own sanity, maintain a certain element of normality. Having said that, this is a time to think different and be bold and survive. So I think, I'll come on to sort of what I mean by that. But the key message there is, you're not alone, and we're all going through this together. So the kind of new reality, as it were, as you see now, all of us kind of, around these online webinars, different tools, different programs that we're now using to sort of connect to each other. And I think this is, the normality for whether you believe it's 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Everyone's got their own definition, but it's about getting used to these tools. Different clients and different people will be using different versions of these, and there's probably more. So it's probably worth all spending some time just getting used to, go to webinars or go to meetings and Google Hangouts and the different functionalities on them, because it's going to be something we're going to have to learn as we go forward. And, checking microphones are working and all that kind of thing is important. Obviously, as of next week, there's going to be a lot more sort of children on the scene as well, which is going to add in different complications to people. And, even, me and my wife are thinking about how we split our diary up now and sort of, we're not going to be able to work, 9 to 5 kind of in the way we did before, wholeheartedly, especially if you're both partners or both income are working. So just getting used to that and being empathetic to those changes. Now, from a business development perspective, I think the first thing to start about before we start sort of thinking, right, how can we grow? How can we get out there? And, how do we win new business? It's ultimately, we've got to look after what we've got at the moment, our current clients. They are really important, not just from a revenue stream, but just from a sort of community connection and the ability to check in with them, ask them how they're all feeling, and empathize with their challenges is just really important, just to build that human connection. If you've got true partnerships, that should be happening naturally anyway, and that should be coming through. And it's a time to sort of test those. So it's just to be there as a friend, but also just to sort of find out what their concerns are and what they're worried about, so you can be proactive and you can provide solutions to their needs. And it might be not kind of what you're currently offer them as a service. It might be slightly different to that, but you might need to sort of pivot and be agile to sort of say, how can you support these clients in different ways? Even for the fact that, a lot of them might not be that tech savvy, so they might need help getting on some of these video conferencing platforms and training on that. I think everyone's got different needs, and I think we need to, as I say, act as a true partner to win them over and also keep them happy. But talking to them will also help you understand if there are challenges that they've got in paying bills, paying invoices for you, and knowing what their plans are going to be over the next few months. So, I imagine you certainly should have all been calling your clients on a regular basis. If you haven't done, I would do that, immediately. Being there to provide outstanding customer services, as always, being efficient, being reliable, being there. And if there is any flexibility you can offer in payment terms, then obviously that's something you should look to do. But then looking sort of from a CSR perspective, it's obviously people are more concerned with how businesses are giving back to society and the world. And this is a time maybe to attract and retain customers by doing that and offer a point of differentiation. So it's about what can you be doing, to help people sort of beyond your normal means. But I think all of that is going to help you, as I say, retain clients, keep them happy. There are going to be circumstances where projects will go on hold, things will slow down, and that is the nature. But how can you kind of maintain a relationship throughout these difficult times?
Adam, if I can just jump in there just quickly, just to echo what you said there about contact with clients. I mean, I've spoke to a lot of my agency sort of contacts, my agency clients in the last week, and been on a few of these sort of webinars with agency people that I don't know as well, through various means. And as you said, I'm sure most people get the idea of speaking to clients now is a good thing, and most people I'm sure will, but I have picked up, certainly in the last 48 hours, of a few agencies just reluctant to sort of make that contact wholeheartedly, just because they're worried about the bad news. They're worried about speaking to somebody from a client perspective who's going to tell them that, they can't pay, won't pay, want to cancel activity. And I understand that's inevitable, but I think, as you just said there, it's better to contact, and certainly better to know and better to be on the front foot, I think, than sitting by the phone waiting for a call from the client, with be it bad news or not. But better to know, better to get on the front foot and contact them, I think, is certainly my opinion.
No, I would agree with that. Wholeheartedly. Cool. So just jumping onto the next slide. So, ultimately, as I said before, it's a time to be thinking a little bolder. And, you've got to be thinking about, this is unfortunately a case where sometimes it's survival of the fittest. And, it's thinking about how you're going to survive, how you're going to come out of this. And that, unfortunately, in this sort of situation, there will be businesses that do go under, and hopefully that won't be any of you, but we've got to be wise, and we can't sort of sit back and just expect things to change. So it's about not holding on to those old ways. It's about sort of being bold and putting every option on the table at the moment, and thinking, well, why can't we do certain things? Why can't we pivot and offer different services, or change what we stand for? Be innovative and be flexible in the products and services that you're offering, and how you offer those services. And I think, ultimately it's about listening to people and understanding your audience and what they're calling out for. And if you do that, that will allow you to innovate and hopefully come out the other side of this even stronger. You know, this webinar, for example, is a perfect example of that. You know, we'd not done webinars before this week, you know, and it's a case of like building communities and bringing people together, because that's what people need at the moment. And there's no reason why we all can't be doing this. There's also lots of new tech out there that you can use, and I'll talk a little bit about different technologies. And as well as a time to be innovative, it's also a time to sort of focus on what you know sells, and, you know, maybe not trying to sort of go too left field if you think it's going to, you know, if it's going to be high risk, and actually double down on what does sell. You know, where are your strengths? What are the key sort of services that you offer that you know can work, and get those to people quicker than usual. So yeah, I think there's a case of just sort of, as I say, innovative, pivoting, being agile, and looking for those new avenues to sort of unlock opportunities, which I'll talk more about. So yeah, I mean, this is just some of the sales tech that we use basically in terms of nurturing leads and taking people on that journey. So I'm sure you all are sort of privy to a lot of these and use some or most of these yourself. But, you know, it's a time to sort of, you know, as I say, we are, now that we can't have this physical contact with people, now's the time to sort of think about this technology we've got around us and how we do embrace it to build these online communities. So we're using Zoom today to obviously build people. We used Eventbrite to drive people to Zoom. You know, we're using CRM system. Pipedrive is our sort of go-to CRM system that we use, but obviously there's HubSpot, there's many others out there. And it's about kind of how are you connecting these tools together in a smart way so that you can actually have, so that you can build these communities, so you can build leads, so you can generate new revenue streams. So you've got your kind of social channels. We use MailChimp, you know, as our sort of email newsletter and blast that goes to people. And I don't know if you know Zapier, but Zapier is a great automation tool which allows sort of two pieces of software to talk together. So, you know, we have like everyone who signs up for Zoom, for example, it goes automatically into Pipedrive. You know, that happens automatically. So, you know, as a result of the webinar, you know, we've generated 50 new potential people that we can talk to. And that's obviously something that you guys can start to do as well, and think about how you're generating leads and opportunities at this time. So yeah, have a little look at that, you know, and be smart with, obviously, I guess we're looking at top of funnel there to sort of think about how we capture interest, how engagement, how we then drive those people into sort of a CRM where we can nurture them and have a conversation, and then obviously how that they convert into an opportunity where they might go into our accountancy software, and then how do we manage those relationships and maintain them going forward with some of the tools at the bottom. So yeah, if anyone's got any other sort of questions on tools and things, then just you know, do let us know. Oh, sorry, just coming out of that. We'll go back in. Great. So so yeah, I think now, as a lot of you have alluded to, it's a more quiet time, and I think it's a time where we can maybe take any quiet time and start planning for the future. You know, I always said going into this that the businesses that had been planning for long term for the last 6, 12 months or beyond are the ones that are going to survive this better and ride any wave. And if you're still got very short term approaches to your new business strategy, you're going to struggle more in these times, because you've not built that database, you've not built that sort of long-term platform of content and how you're going to nurture people and be relevant to them. So it's now a time where I would think about how can you use this time over the next 6 months to sort of plan for the future and try and come out of this in a stronger place. So these are the kind of, I guess, like 7 kind of key areas that I think people should be focusing on if they are having downtime. So looking at your positioning, you know, what is the mission of your company? You know, do you have a brand? Have you defined your personality? Do you have a definition of who your audience is? Is there a clear point of differentiation? These are really important questions that you can ask yourself. And still, you know, we see so many, generic sounding agencies out there that I think we need to sort of wise up to that and sort of look at how we can stand out from the crowd and change our message. Similarly, from a strategy perspective, what's the roadmap for growth? What's the case of sort of how you're going to grow? What actions and tactics are you going to put in place? So, we look at KPI trackers, content calendars, all these kind of things that are sort of looking at what events we're going to run, what content we're going to push out there. What is the strategy for growth? And I think now is the time to sort of start planning, get together and use your time with your senior management team to think about that. Having clarity on your pipeline, what's in the pipeline? Do you know how are you nurturing those leads? Are they getting close to closing? What can be done, to add sort of more visibility to that? The website and the marketing collateral, that website that's been put off for months and months and years, is now a time to start thinking about actually, how can we get that website sorted? How can we get it, up to speed? And how can we kind of improve all our marketing collateral? Content, people are always saying like, oh, we don't have time to write content, that's always put on the back burner. But if you do have downtime, start writing content, start writing content, maybe evergreen content that could still be relevant in 6 months' time to when it is now. Have a plan for content so that when you come out of this period, you've got content ready to go and you can then start distributing it over a time period later on down the year. Spending time on your KPIs, the amount of agencies I speak to that just don't have clarity on the numbers that they need to hit. And that's not always just the big commercial numbers. We work backwards to look at, the number of proposals we need, the number of meetings we need, the number of inbound leads, outbound leads, referrals, what's your conversion rates? How long does it take you on average to close a deal? These are the numbers that you need to have in order to, close deals basically. And then lastly, I'd look at the CRM system. So, we do talk a lot about CRM systems and the importance of them. But if you're not on a CRM system or you're not using it properly, it's a mess. If there's leads all over the place, if there's no clarity to it, then you might as well not be using one. The CRM should give you complete clarity and focus on your entire sales functionality.
Adam, so can I just chip in there, obviously, from a procurement point of view on the target audiences? Now is a great time to think about who you are going to target and include procurement in that. And I think, I've been in marketing procurement for 25 plus years. This year is really the first year that I've seen agencies take procurement seriously. And I think it's due to the BBH charity pitch. Much as, everyone was very negative about it and the fact it was procurement led, and it was, I do think that agencies now take procurement seriously, and it's taken a long time. So I definitely think about, when you're thinking about your audience, your target audience, it is multiple sources. I went to a talk the other day, WPP, and Mark Reed, and they're saying they're also dealing with chief digital officers. Obviously, depends on your category. So I think it's multiple points of entry now in an organisation, not necessarily the traditional CMO. So it could be the chief digital officer, and it could be procurement. It could be the CSR if you're going in from the social side of things. So I think it's quite complex, but I think about different strategies for different audience. And whilst we're focused on new business, the other thing for me is be great for agencies to use this time to, once you've won the work, is keeping that client long term. Invest in, commercial reviews, invest in client satisfaction surveys. So think about the long term, about how that engagement and how you can grow organic growth as well by having those regular dialogues, again, with a possible multiple audience base in those existing clients that you've got.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree with all of that, and I think we're too used to pitching and not actually focusing on the those relationships and how we can maintain those, how we can improve them. But certainly procurement doesn't often feature on a lot of people's targeting strategies, and I think it certainly needs to.
Tina, could I just ask, I mean, with your experience of the procurement community, I mean, they're in the same boat as the rest of us in terms of home working, etc., I suppose, but do you get the sense that it's business as usual pretty much for those people, or is it wise to contact them now, or is
I think it's business as usual, and they've got time on their hands. I mean, you know, that's my main message coming out today is get in there soon. I've got clients, a lot of clients with carrying on the pitches. They've got time on their hands. They haven't got the 2-hour commute. They're not wasting time around the water cooler, you know, having a coffee and a chat. Definitely. You know, I sent a thing round on Wednesday about doing Mark Whitson's mini MBA to 40 procurement people. Probably half came back and said, do you know what? I've got time to do that. So definitely, Gareth, I think it's a really good time. Clients as well. I think this week's been tough. Next week's going to be a bit tough. You know, just emailing a few retail clients today. When that's over, people are going to have time to chat and calls, and to be honest, we'll want them. So
might be more receptive now than they were in the past, I guess. Like you say, absolutely, great point.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me, guys, but I don't know if it's worth me sharing just a little bit of experience on the back of what Tina and Yasser have just mentioned. So
yeah, we can hear you.
Hi. Oh, great, good. Hello, I'm Gemma, and I'm head of marketing and new business at RPM. Hi, Adam. Just share a bit of experience with procurement that I literally had this morning. So we have an RFI come in for quite a large retail brief for a food brand house, which came in like Monday afternoon before the announcement of everyone working from home and social distancing. I've just spoken at length with the lead procurement contact on that, and essentially a lot of the feedback he's been getting from agencies is that they're not able to respond given the current situation within the timeframes, and he was really pleased to hear that we're essentially business as usual. And so if I suppose my recommendation is if anyone feels that their business is business as usual and it's not necessarily going to be, their output's not affected, get in touch with procurement, let them know, because by the sounds of it, certainly from that conversation, that business has been told by several agencies that they can't respond, and that's frustrating for the procurement team and also for the actual shopper team, because they need to push this project along, and so it might be, you know, opportunity for other agencies that are able to deliver against that response will get a look in when normally they wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I've issued an RFI this week. Did to 8 agencies on Monday, and 7 were like on it. 1 took 48 hours to reply.
Yeah,
we already had some information to clients, and then came back a day later saying, well, it's for that value. No, we don't think we're going to pitch. And honestly, that's their call. But it was really great to see agencies on it, and I've been really respectful back. Timescales is what's happening. So I agree with Gemma that, you know, some agencies are not seeing it as an opportunity. I think it's a brilliant opportunity for agencies now. And I think, thanks, Gemma, for picking up the phone and talking to procurement. You know, I think they've got time. So I think use them and talk to them.
Yeah, so a couple of questions just came in there. So Chris, you asked if there's any good CRM out there with sales pipeline focus. I mean, as I said before, you know, we use Pipedrive as a sort of go-to. We find it very easy and customizable. It's also relatively inexpensive. It's about £15 for a user. So it's quite easy to set up. So, you know, I can send you more information about that after the call. But it's simple. It's not, you know, I find HubSpot or Salesforce a bit too over the top. It's like, you know, trying to crack a nut with a sledgehammer. So Pipedrive is a very good, effective tool for that. And Tina asks, Tom Kennedy asks, is procurement approach relevant for smaller agencies?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It depends on the category of spend in an organisation. So, you know, obviously procurement will concentrate on big spend stuff. So traditionally, obviously advertising on media, I wasn't say events, but obviously sadly they're probably on hold for the moment. So it depends on the category of spend for the organisation. So some have a spend threshold. So if the spend is £50,000 or £100,000, they may not get involved, which actually sometimes is a good thing. You know, you can sort of get through and not involve procurement with lots of RFIs and RFP. So it really depends on the value, I think, and the organisation's guidelines on when procurement would get involved.
Yeah, okay. So hopefully that answers your question, Tom. It's more around the value of that project. Okay, so I'll just go back into the presentation. Yeah, keep asking questions, and I think, you know, you can try and put your hands up, and we'll try and give you.
Was that one for Katie? Hi, Katie, about procurement contact.
Hiya, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Katie, you asked about list of procurement contacts.
Yeah, so I know a number of procurement people, as you know.
Well, I do know.
But I'd love to be able to widen it out, because we moved into home working 10 days ago, and we are racing through our work at the moment. So I suddenly find myself with a volume of capacity. None of our clients have backed out. We've got more work coming our way, which is fab. But I want to make hay while the sun shines. Is there a way of, how do I find all the other procurement people? Where are they, Tina?
Yeah, I second that. I'm really, really keen to know what this, yeah.
Yeah, there is no one list, unfortunately, but LinkedIn is a fabulous tool. So if you search marketing procurement, you search marketing operations, category manager, category buyer, honestly, hundreds come up that way. Obviously, it's hard, then maybe to get the emails like that. But no, sadly, there is no one database that you can access of procurement people. But I when I want to find procurement people, I do go on LinkedIn and do it by job title search, and hundreds come up, absolutely hundreds. But I agree, Katie, I would make hay while the sun shines, as it is now shining here in Oxfordshire. It's a great time to get in contact. And I think they all welcome a virtual coffee and a chat. It's a great time for them to learn about new agencies.
Brilliant, thank you.
And I've got Paul. I'll just unmute you. So let's. Paul, can you talk now?
Adam, I can. Yeah. Good day, good afternoon, everyone. I was just about to type in a question. My question. Really interesting to hear Tina's perspectives. Thank you. As Adam knows, we are quite literally weeks old as a brand new agency and consultancy, but we're in a very new space as well. We are actually marketing people who are collaborating with senior doctors, academics and scientists to bring well-being propositions to the commercial space, not to the health and not to the healthcare space, as it were. And I just wanted to, Tina, I'm sorry, it probably feels like you're being bombarded, but when approaching an organization about a very new category, is a senior procurement person also an appropriate person to reach out to, or does it just add more things to their inbox that they probably don't need right now?
That's a really good question, Paul. I think it would probably be led by the internal client in the first instance.
Right.
If it is such a new area, such as the area you're working in, I would have thought it probably would be the specialist or the stakeholder within the organisation first.
Right.
I rarely hear of procurement people. One, they haven't got time to be proactive, sadly. They might have now, but it usually is led by, we would be directed, we would work with the internal stakeholder.
Of
so
course.
I think if it's so new that you're working in, I would probably go for the internal client first.
Right.
A possible new business, more so than procurement.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you, because as I'm sure you're aware, with CV19, discussions we've been having with the guys at UCLH is, once we are through this year or the first half of this year, just like every other form of influenza, the virus will mutate. So there is perhaps a very good cause for saying to organizations, how might we help you in your preparedness for 2021 and beyond, should this thing become something unlike we've seen this year, but want to grow again, as it were. So that has an impact both on internal audiences, but also external ones as well. But
also, I think if your thing is quite unique and new, you can go quite senior in the organisation. So possibly, so if a marketeer or get something from a CEO or COO, they do jump in and have a look at it. So maybe what you're doing, especially in the health sector at the moment, you might want to go quite senior as well. Maybe.
No, that's That's a really, really good point. Absolutely. I think it is those folks within the organisation who are probably being challenged, as Adam said earlier on, to think about new routes to market and new propositions as well. That's really helpful. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Paul. No, I certainly think, you've got a very interesting proposition there. And I think now more than ever, it's going to be very prevalent to sort of how companies and brands, are thinking about that, and what role they sort of play in sort of healthcare and communities. All right, so I'll just go on with the presentation. So, sorry, I've just got to close one thing down. So looking at the sort of, there are certain industries, and it's worth thinking about this if you're doing business development and new business, that there are certain industries that boom in recessions, and certainly, slightly different in these instances, but there's some very parallels that we can draw with previous recessions. So, all discount stores, so, the likes of Aldi, Lidl, the US, you see things like Walmart, they do very well in times of recession. All the essential goods are kind of pretty robust, largely in the FMCG space, but things that people need to survive on every single day, they won't be as impacted by this, in ways other industries were. You've got the kind of sin industries like tobacco, wine, gaming, gambling, different vices that will do well in these times of recession. There tends to be a focus on people who specialize in repairing, upgrading, or maintaining goods. So it's less about buying new and actually about making do with what you've got. So whether that's, an extension on your house or repairing your washing machine or whatever it might be, people will sort of look to cut back and think about how can we just improve what we've got right now. And those companies will do well. Naturally, pharma and health, as I'm sure very busy people at the moment, will be booming industries, and maybe not the best to reach out to at this time, but certainly, we'll be thinking about, future comms and, how they're going to handle potentially, things like this in the future. Confectionery and things like cosmetics, so small little ways of getting enjoyment. So you saw in the last recession, lipsticks were very popular because it was relatively ineffective, and it just brings a bit of happiness to people's days in the same way a chocolate bar would. So you tend to see confectionery and things like that doing well. The luxury goods market tends to be relatively sort of rises above it because their demographic are very, very wealthy people that won't be as impacted by, the economy and what's going on necessarily. So they can do quite well. Contraceptives, cheap thrills, people do turn to that in times of need and happiness. Delivery services, so, the likes of Deliveroo, and you've seen Ocado, who I'm sure will be looking for a digital agency in the next 6 months. There are opportunities with those guys, and any e-commerce business, is certainly flourishing as people don't go to the shops. They're all going online, and deliveries are massive. And then, as I'm sure Yasser knows, anyone who deals with tax services at the moment, litigation and the likes of that are obviously going to be very busy people. So, these are companies that are doing well. And when you're thinking about your business development strategy of who needs help right now, it could be these companies. So it's just worth thinking about that in the next kind of few weeks and months.
Just to add to that quickly, Adam, a couple of my clients have had inquiries from their current brand clients in the gardening space and in, I was going to say DIY, it's actually paint, so, but DIY, because people recognise that they're going to have time on their hands and they are going to be, housebound or garden bound. So a couple of my clients have had their clients contacting them and wanted to increase their spend online. Fridge freezers as well was another client they had. But
I saw that one.
I guess they're probably running out. There's demand for those, but certainly, painting, decorating, demand and gardening. Saying there will be a massive upswing and benefit to that, but certainly the people are thinking, consumers, about those sort of things.
Yeah. Just to jump in as well, we've actually been pitching this last couple of days for a cleaning products company, and they have seen their business in the last month online boom 700%. And we've been doing competitor analysis for them, and a lot of their competitors have sold out of all their online products. So cleaning products, stuff that basically will make people feel safer at home, is going to be massive at the moment as well. But actually another one of our clients has just seen a massive re-emphasis as well. They over the last kind of 5 years or so, they've been building a sustainability consultancy, and sustainability has been the big fashion topic for the last 5-10 years, whatever, and is ongoing, and it's massive growth. But suddenly it's not the topic that people are thinking about anymore, and it's not the topic that businesses are looking for support on. So they're seeing a completely different re-emphasis for their business as to how they can sort of enter new spaces via different means of consultancy, basically. So I think we're going to see existing businesses that are not necessarily in sectors that are booming, just re-emphasizing their current services as well.
Yeah. So exactly. So, you know, and that's positive for all of us at a time where it's all kind of feels doom and gloom. We are thinking about the wider opportunities out there. I mean, I also saw the likes of Lego direct sales have shot up through the roof. Netflix, Disney Plus, these are all brands that are doing so well because people are at home essentially, and they're looking for entertainment. So it's, you know, it's about being, as I said before, innovative and thinking on your feet. So yeah, just other sort of opportunities sort of to list out there. So, you know, for ourselves, there's kind of like looking at how we can use new communications, these tech tools to build kind of online communities and focus people around that, whether it's Slack, Zoom, you know, Guild, whatever sort of app you're using or thinking about, there are ways to build online communities at this time. We can look at kind of more basic offerings of what we do. So kind of, you know, are there essentials to what we offer at a lower cost? So, you know, just thinking about how can we give people what they need for now without the bells and whistles on it. Might be something to think about. International brands. So there's lots of areas in the world that are sort of relatively unaffected. So Russia, South America, Africa, as regions, and you know, there could be sort of international opportunities for you to work with brands, or if you've had any experience in doing that, maybe that's something you could rely on when, you know, our domestic market is suffering somewhat. You know, thinking just outside the box and producing something that would be of real benefit to your clients. So, you know, I've got an agency we work with who work with Pioneer, and they just designed a really nice kind of sort of flyer, if you like, just to go out internally to all their global employees to let them know that they were thinking of them, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that wouldn't take too much for any agency to do that, you know, for free for a client, just as a nice way of saying, you know, we're thinking of you, use this to help. You know, taking steps to support local initiatives may be a way of sort of differentiating you and sort of bringing you back to the community. And you look at the amount of social content that's going viral at the moment, and people going virtual and doing things online, you know, it is booming. So yeah, I think as sort of Katie said in the chat, you know, technology, you know, there are tech companies that are really benefiting out of this, and this might fundamentally change the way that we operate going forward. So what's the, you know, that these trends might last forever and might be set in place as people realize there's better or different ways of doing things.
And so just on the social content, I think agencies just need to just watch what they're doing in one way, because, you know, there are a lot of similar stuffs coming out, isn't there? Like the virtual pub, you know, and that's all great stuff, but it's a lot of similar stuff. So about ways of working, and it's like it's normal for everybody now. So I think maybe, you know, it's fine this week, but as we move into next week, it'd be great just to get back to business as usual, you know. And there's been some quite funny ones. There was an agency doing isolation crib things on a lunchtime where each agency person, and that's quite cool. That's a bit different. There's just a lot of, and I'm actually, you know, I love Twitter. I'm not there's a lot of new stuff people saying away. So I think look at what medium you're using to promote yourself. And if you're Twitter, just be careful, it might get lost with everything else that's going on. LinkedIn is a great tool that a lot of people are using, but you know, there's a lot of similar stuff, you know, on 10 top tips of working from home, and you know, like, here's our virtual pub, and if I see another post with like all the agencies, you know, 10 of them with a cup of tea at 5 o'clock, it's like, so that's fine for this week, but I think moving on next week, it'd be great to get some interesting stuff back out there, if that helps people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's the same, you know, people, like with any content, it gets boring eventually, and people jump on the bandwagons, don't they? And it's like a case of, right, what, you know, and I think that if they keep putting the audience at the heart of that, and as you say, thinking about the platforms and what's relevant, then hopefully we'll see some interesting stuff and innovations coming out there.
I think social purpose as well, that's a big thing, isn't it? People that are doing stuff for, you know, the village or what, you know, that sort of stuff, I think is quite key as well. Yeah.
Any other questions? Paul, have you got a question?
I had a question, if that's all right. Sorry, when you're just talking about industry, the boom in the recession, one thought I had was around, you know, that might change quite dramatically now, but then also into the future is sort of online learning. Like a lot of, you know, schools and universities obviously don't have their students in with them. So that's going to be sort of something that they might, you know, do now, and then potentially in the future, it might be something that's more efficient to do that. But I suppose my question is around, you know, if you target something like that, or something from the list that you just had from in the previous slide, and that your work is not necessarily relevant to that, what do you think the best kind of way of approaching those things that you think might be a good industry to talk to if you don't have the relevant sort of case study?
Well, yeah, I think when you say relevant case study, I think sometimes we restrict ourselves by being very sector focused. So we think about, you know, have we done work within sort of the education sector, therefore we can work in the education sector. And I think sometimes it's about thinking beyond that, thinking about the challenges that you solved with that piece of work, or looking at the audience that you ultimately targeted and look to change their behavior. And that allows you to think about your case studies in a different way. So it's about repackaging kind of what the case studies that you've got and making them relevant to those audiences. But I do think, you know, reaching out to them, you know, now is not necessarily a bad thing at all. We're seeing people being quite receptive to new business outreach. And I mean, at the bottom here of this slide, I'll sort of show you here. Sorry, there was, you know, there were a couple of sort of conversations that I thought people could start having with clients, because this is the sort of things that I think brands need to be doing right now to be relevant in today's society and what's going on, which is, like, so being a source of truth and a positive impact. You know, that people are scared, you know, don't know who to believe, different sources. They want that truth. You know, what truth is relevant for any brand to bring to the market and show people what's going on with those businesses. Like, how can you help people build new routines at home? You know, there's all ways we're restructuring our lives, our time and management, everything's sort of different. So what are brands doing right now to help people change their daily lives and their routines? You know, you're seeing, as you say, online dances, educations at home, all sorts of things, yoga learning, all this stuff, right? But this is good, and this is what, you know, this is big opportunities for brands to completely fundamentally transform what they did before. And I think you might have a case study that is relevant in how you've maybe helped a brand diversify or change direction or innovate. And that's going to be relevant to any business, because that's just about, you know, critical thinking and creativity. So you could bring that to them. So hopefully that kind of, you know, answers, you know, some of those concerns, and makes you think outside of just having you know, we don't have the relevant experience. Because I think if you looked at each of your case studies and you broke them down in different ways, you'll realize that your experience is actually very relevant to lots of different people. They just don't know it yet. And it's your job to make them, to draw that connection, basically.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's great. Thank you.
I went to a talk, there's 4 CMOs on a panel before Christmas. And I thought I knew, because most of my clients are CMOs. What was interesting, they said,
Oh,
that we've got, that you've identified, and we'll talk to you. I think that's fantastic, you know, in terms of if you've done some work, as Adam said, and there's an issue that you want to bring to their attention, they'd be interested. Don't tell them you've won all these awards and aren't you great and you have Beer Friday and here's a photo of it. You know, it's all, you know, understand what they're going through and what role you have now when we're out of this, however long it is.
Yeah. There's a couple of other ones. So recognise and affirm new social norms. So just making people feel normal, that this isn't strange. This is just part of what we're all going through. You know, I'm sure that would help people. Learning from the last new normal. So somebody asked about my my list of industry sectors, and you know that was done on desk research and research done on like 2008, 2001, different recessions that have hit the global economy, and so it's real data that backs that up to show which businesses and industries actually perform better or stronger coming out of it. So we can learn from, although this is not normal and this has its own nuances, of course it does, but there's lots of learnings that we can look back at and go, oh, hold on, okay, right, so that happened then, that could happen again. And just, yeah, like Tina said, talking to your clients, but it's about how can brands be present and invest in those consumer relationships. You know, there's never been a more important time for brands to be human and listen to their consumers and connect with them in a really authentic way. And, you know, we've been talking about purpose and, you know, for the last sort of 5-10 years and thinking, you know, what does this mean? And I mean, times like this will show, you know, who are the brands that are just trying to, you know, capitalize on this and flog stuff, and who are the brands that are actually trying to add value and support people's lives in a difficult time. And the latter ones will be the ones that come out of this stronger. And if you can help your clients do that, you're going to come out in a stronger place as well. Just flipping back into kind of like new business stuff, because, you know, that's kind of my core strength in terms of looking at some of this maybe low hanging fruit, is that, you know, these are a couple of the areas that I would turn to if you're out there thinking about, right, immediate short-term cash flow, how are we going to get some leads through the door? You know, I would think about, you know, upselling or retaining existing clients. Obviously, we've spoken about that and how you can sort of be a true value partner to them. Looking at previous clients and relationships, the amount of people that I think don't look back over the past clients that they worked with, you know, 6 months ago, 6 years ago, whatever it might be. You know, there are opportunities to re-engage with those people all the time and not just cut ties. Even if things ended badly, you can patch things up. Going through your own LinkedIn network and your own CRM, if you've got one, you know, looking at those connections, you know, the amount of people that sort of, you should do this as regular practice, you know, all of this stuff every kind of few months, and kind of go, right, hold on, who am I connected to from like 10 years ago that I haven't spoken to? And maybe it might be nice to reach out. There's loads of opportunities within your immediate network. Or it could be that somebody's moved jobs and you don't realize how valuable a connection they could be, and go, oh, actually, didn't realize you went to such and such, and, you know, maybe you could form another relationship that way. Revisiting lost pitches. So, you know, the amount of people agency I see sort of get hung up and like walk away. It's like, oh, we lost the pitch, game over. It's like, no, that's the start of a relationship. You know, most of the times the agency who wins it, they, you know, Tina will tell you, they mess up after three months and then they're back out looking again. So it's, you know, sometimes it's about just maintaining those relationships, because sometimes a pitch decision might not always work out and might not be the right one. And for whatever reason, and sometimes you still need to be close to those guys to sort of turn that around. Anyone you've met in the past at events, so if you've got all those old business cards somewhere, might be time to pull those out and start flicking through those guys to see if there's any interesting contacts. And referrals, you know, who's in your wider network that could refer you leads, and who could you reach out to now and let, you know, put out a helping hand, but also might generate some new opportunities through that way. And then the last one is just, you know, being aware of sort of industry news, looking at shares, movements, looking at people who are hiring, companies that need saving, all different sort of triggers that will come in the news that you might trigger you to think about, actually, there's a real opportunity here. So it's about just being intuitive and keeping your ear to the street.
I think it's, and also educating people possibly as well. So if you've got content you want to share, literally while we've been talking, I've had an invite from Karen Blackett, WPP, a webinar at 2:30 from Kantar, what brands can do during this. I've just registered for it. I thought that's interesting. People are going to have time on their hands to listen to stuff, to read stuff. So I think if you can, add on the side, about content, if you've got great content, if you do podcasts, if you do anything like that, it might be a good time to get it out there and see if clients have registered. But that WPP, you're literally just doing one this afternoon with Kantar, and they've had one already that's been oversubscribed. It's an hour. I was like, yeah, actually, I've had something cancelled this afternoon. I'm going to register for that. So I think use that sort of stuff as well. Content you perhaps had already, content that you can adjust and get it out there and see. Because I think people are going to have time to listen to stuff. Yeah,
I would agree. So repurposing. I've just got one more slide, a couple more slides, and then I think we've got a couple of questions coming through. So I'll just quickly whiz through these. This slide just basically looks at nurturing and closing some of those existing leads that you've got. So, acknowledging their fears and concerns and talking to them about, what they're going through and how you can alleviate them. Building trust and rapport at a time when it's needed most. It is an important time to continue marketing. It's not a time to sort of, take your foot off the gas. It's not gonna leave you in any good shape at the end of it. Productizing offers, it's interesting. We get involved in a lot of conversations at the moment with agencies about how they can move from kind of that simple rate card approach to then actually how can we package our services, build more retained long-term relationships and deliver added value. So there's sometimes interesting things within that and changing the way people buy you, make it easier to buy. Getting prospects to maybe commit to a smaller project. So you might want them to do the whole web build right now, but is there a microsite page? Is there a landing page? Is there some initial, like upgrade and maintain approach? Could you update an existing agency website for the next kind of 6 months and then hold off on the new web build till next year, and that might prolong the relationship plus get some revenue coming through. Making sure you're asking why prospects are not signing off. The amount of people who I hear get no's and get rejections and then they just go, okay, and they don't ask, why. Like, try and really understand that so you can learn and you can improve what you're doing. Obviously use relevant case studies and testimonials where appropriate. Be innovative with pricing strategies and, I'm sure Tina's seen a lot of that, but like, performance related pay and fees and where you can sort of show added value, even if it's sort of perceived added value is going to help you in times like this.
I don't see as many as I'd like to see, Adam, to be honest.
Yeah, well, exactly. So I think that maybe now's the time, but if there's not work coming in, if an agency's quiet, surely now would be a great time to go, right, well, we'll work on this and we'll shadow some of that risk and then come out the other side of it both stronger. It's, rather than sitting there with no work, it would seem like a good win strategy. Offering random acts of kindness, I think, are always, as I said before, with like the Pioneer example, very, very helpful and will be well received. Providing value and insight. So, any company struggling right now, yes, they want to see reports, they want to see consumer insights. Any research you can get your hands on or you could do is going to help them make decisions, and you could be there as that true partner thinking about their challenges. And then, just having clear transition plans and onboarding processes. So, one of the big fears when when brands move from agency to agency is that transition process and what's going to get lost and who's looking after me and all the things in between. I think it's really important that you present that to give people real confidence that you've done this before and they're in safe hands.
One thing I can add to that, we've had a client in the last couple of days who came up with a great idea who basically are asking their clients and their contacts if they've got any old briefs actually that they might want to look at, just to see if they can supply any ideas, look back at it, look what happened, see what they might do differently, and that could, put you in the frame next time they have something relevant, even if they are struggling at this time.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so just to summarize, I think keep calm, carry on, look after your clients at a time when you need them most, embrace the new reality and don't fear it. Be bold at a time when there's lots of opportunity. Use sales tech to get online and nurture leads. Plan for the future and use this time to think wisely about the next 6 months. Look at those industries that are booming and look for those opportunities that do exist. See if you can target any sort of low-hanging fruit and quick wins, and nurture and close any existing leads that you've got currently in your pipeline. And so, obviously from another side, look after your people. If you can make cutbacks and cost savings, that's going to help you at a time like this. You look at the government, speak to your bank if there's ways that they can support you in a time like this to get some further cash flow into your business, and work with your key suppliers and customers, because they're going to be a really important source for you to look at those payment terms. So that's kind of everything. Hope that was useful, but we've got still got a bit of time, 5 or so minutes if people want to sort of ask questions, and I think there were a couple in the Q&A. So someone said, don't want to sound like a vulture. How can we take advantage of competitors who are laying people off or going out of business, i.e. take on their clients? So yeah, I think I think with any type of downturn, there are naturally going to be opportunities out there. And I think there is a sort of sentiment about that, whereas people feel scared to sort of sell in a time where it's like, how's that going to be perceived? So I think there is a bit of a psychological barrier there. I think ultimately it's about helping people, right? So, if people are laying people off, well, then, there's a surplus of people out there, quality employees. So now might be a time to hire if you've got the cash and you've got the ability to take people on, or you've got enough business. If people are going out of business, well, are there things that they could do, last ditch attempts to try and turn that business around? But yeah, I mean, if agencies are going out of business and there's problems there, maybe it's a case of approaching the agency. Is there a way of actually, I don't know, taking on their clients or giving them roles in your business, or merging together, buying that business out? I don't know if that could be something. But yeah, I try not to act like a vulture and try and see it more as, how can we support people at this time, I would say. Don't know if you guys got anything to sort of add to that.
No.
Any other questions? Hold on.
It's all about government funding, wasn't there, about making sense of government funding for small business? I don't know. I've sort of tried to understand it. But I think they're more loans than that, aren't they? I think.
Yes, yeah. I think there's going to be short-term loans. I think it's mainly in the hospitality sectors and the and those kind of retail industries. But there are going to be, I think there's going to be either you can put your mortgage on hold for 3 months. You can get some loans up to sort of 25 grand, or there's I think there's grants as well and different things that which won't incur interest when you pay them back. But I think there's another talk today. I don't know when they're talking, but there's going to be a more I don't know, Yasser, you might know more about this.
Yeah, I think the Chancellor is going to come on and speak today, so we'll see what he has to say. I mean, what he announced, the original, which you've just mentioned, original provisions for loans and things like that for small businesses. There was the small business interruption scheme, or something like that, where they're offering to give loans with a 6-month waiver on the interest fees. But again, it looks like it's going to be a really slow process, and if anyone's looking for instant cash, it's definitely not that. It's going to take some time for all of the applications to go through, and they're going to be swamped with applications. So if there is cash flow needed, you're still advised best off to go to your bank and see what they can do first, rather than wait for this government scheme. What today's announcements might do is just give us a better indication whether they're prepared to help small businesses and take the lead like Denmark did, for example, where they're offering to pay, the government in Denmark, for example, are offering to pay the wages, or 75% of wages of small businesses for the next 3 months. as long as there is, they're giving certainty to employees that they're going to be able to keep them after that. And so there may be something along those lines where we're doing that. But at the moment, HMRC are being a bit more lenient in terms of deferring tax payments or arranging payment plans if you have upcoming payments to allow you to keep keep hold of as much cash as possible. So these are all things that we can take advantage of at the moment.
I presume the hardest thing is going to find out who needs the help, right? And who needs the help most, and qualifying people is just I don't understand how they've got a process to work out which businesses are in most need, basically.
Yeah, it's going to be a really slow process. As I understand it, they're still vetting all of the lenders that want to be part of this scheme, regardless of the small businesses that need it. So the rule of thumb will be that if you needed funding, or if you're still going to have to be able to repay that loan. So if you weren't able to get funding beforehand, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to get it now, because you're still going to have to provide some kind of personal guarantees, and there's still going to be a strict vetting process. So it's not instant cash, unfortunately, but the time to pay agreements and the HMRC help they're giving will certainly help some businesses.
Yeah. Okay. Has anyone else got any other questions? Or want to put their hand up to ask anything around business development, or just concerns they're having about growth, or for any of the panelists? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Tom Kennedy. Okay, hold on. Tom, can you speak?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Tom.
Hi, yeah, just a quick one, I suppose, to everyone, really. A thought that I had was around, not for myself, but requirements, sort of like big productions for advertising or music videos or something, that when those sorts of situations where people aren't going to be able to kind of be together physically, is that going to see a kind of real boom in things like animation and sort of motion graphics, where people can do it sort of more remotely? And just if there was any other thoughts of other examples like that people might have that could be sort of taken advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea. I think that's a prime example of what we're talking about here, of how to innovate. In that, you're right. People can't be in a physical location. Is animation going to be a more widely, and it's obviously more cost effective as well, to try and produce content and things like that. I mean, that's the sort of message I would be taking to a brand out there, and with that exact scenario, and say, are you struggling? Someone who produces regular content, possibly talk to them and say, is animation something that's going to be more relevant to you right now? And that's something that we can offer, and you might find, you might get great success rate out of that.
I agree. I had my last coffee on Tuesday with Steve Davis, who's the head of the APA, production companies, and he basically said, hour by hour, unfortunately, all production shoots are being cancelled, and actually they're talking about a lot of redundancies in these production companies. So getting back to the vulture bit, and another friend, Dave Priso, and two cost consultant, shoots are all just being cancelled. So I think it's a great opportunity for stuff that can be done remotely and using technology as well. And that's like pitches. I mean, I've got so many pitches on. One's probably might slow down. And there was an article in Campaign US, I did put on my LinkedIn Wednesday, I think, for a lot of the US consultants about how to do pitches differently, remotely. And I think, obviously chemistry meetings is going to be interesting, how we get around those. But I think that's one thing to also think about, is how to be creative in a pitch process. Because actually, I've been advising some clients, why don't we ask the agencies how we can be creative? Because we actually don't know the real answer and what's going to work. But I think that's going to be interesting as well as production, is how to handle the pitch process.
So pitching, in your eyes, is still continuing, and people are still pitching, and I mean that's phenomenal. I think that's incredible. I honestly thought that would slow down myself. But
no.
And and what an opportunity to show your digital skills and think outside the box, right, to change a process.
Yeah, we pitched
now, how you can use Zoom and stuff like that. Because I've had one potential slowdown, charity, PR, possibly. all the other ones I'm working, I've got loads of pitches on. I've never been so busy on pitches. Sports meeting, there's one potential big one, but yeah, we're all sort of saying we're going to go ahead. Just how do we do it differently?
We pitched yesterday over Zoom, and that works perfectly well. Yeah, 3 people outside, 2 theirs. It was just as normal, just or remotely from our bedrooms. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
I think it might be an opportunity for the procurement guys as well, because maybe with them being at home and access to everybody online, maybe they could be briefing or the pitch out, or briefing the project, or briefing the RFI in person rather than sending out large documents. You know, that sort of change the industry from their perspective.
What an opportunity, Gareth. If I was a digital agency, why not prepare how to run a pitch by Zoom for procurement seminar?
Absolutely, you could tell that.
Copyright Tina Fegent. Go for it, guys.
I'm looking forward to it already.
In all seriousness, you know, that would, I've dealt with lots of procurement people, and you know, that would bridge a gap there between agencies and procurement, wouldn't it? If that was sort of more face-to-face contact, albeit online, there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else?
Yeah, I thought I might just say there's obviously a lot of people with a lot of interesting insights here, and in times like this, we all best to be as community focused as we can. I thought it might just be nice to drop people's LinkedIn details in the chat, and we could all connect and keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. We can all do that. There's the chat on the side there, so I think everyone can connect. And yeah, I'm happy to connect you to anybody else in the group. I can see there's also been some other chat going on the side of things, and I saw that Katie's been doing some great insights report. Just done one on COVID-19 and travel in social, which sounds really fascinating. So that's going to be, you know, if we can all get hold of that and use that, that'd be great. So yeah, I think there's a couple of conversations there which are all going to be valued for different people, different times. But look, you know, I think from my perspective, like, you know, this was a bit of a test and learn. I've kind of, you know, the whole screen is a bit crazy trying to flick between Q&As and different things, but hopefully everyone's got some good value from it. And you know, if so, we can look at doing these kind of more regularly. I think it's time where people need human connection, and we need answers, and we want to learn, and we want to help each other. So yeah, for me, it's a good, valuable session and experience.
Absolutely, great. Well done, Adam, for pulling this together. I'm sure it's helped a lot of people, and yeah, it's a good session.
All right. Well, if anyone thinks of anything after the call, just get in touch, let us know, and we'll hear from us soon. But thank you to all my lovely panelists for being involved. And if you've got any questions, do get in touch.
Thank you, Adam. It was great.
All right. Take care.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you for your time, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Much appreciated.